Thank you, Brother Danny. But you know, my mother was born in 1915. Isn't that amazing? My dad was born in 1918. And he just passed away last month. My mother died in 2007. But you know, I just put topics here like work. They had a very good work ethic. And the sad thing is, it got passed on to us. My brother and I and my sister, Elizabeth, is at another ceremony where they're honoring veterans for the ones that passed away this year. So she's there at that at the moment. But my dad went to school in Grundy County, graduated in 1935. And a couple of years later, he hopped freight trains and went out to California. Thought he had a job out there. Fortunately, he didn't, because when he came back here, our lives would be completely different. You know, it's funny how that is. One decision can change everything. But when my dad was young, about 4 years old, his father got killed working on the railroad. So my dad grew up without a dad. If y'all remember, I know most of you don't, but Father Adams, when my dad was young, operated as a pastor at the Episcopal Church. And he was a Boy Scout leader. So he was the father to my dad and a lot of boys in this area at that time. My dad graduated from high school and got a job later on at the Crane and Animal Company in Chattanooga, and later got on with the railroad. When World War II came along, he got into service. And he was in a railroad battalion. He served in France, Germany, Belgium, all those areas, and helped supply Patton during the Battle of the Bulge. And you don't hear much about the railroads in these documentaries and things, but they were very vital getting supplies and things to the troops. Then after that, he came back and continued to work for the railroad. At that time, they were living in Chattanooga, but they moved back to Tracy City, for my mother's side of the family, where at that time, my mother's dad operated a mill, Bell's Mill in Nevada, and was a farmer. When my mother graduated from high school, she took off to Nashville to a business school. And her brother Grady was already there. And they stayed another year or so, and a man came and told them, said, if you'll take over the store that he had down there in Crossword Roads or somewhere there, that they could come and make payments on it as they sold items. So they packed up and moved back there and opened up that store, which later developed into a department store in Tracy City. And between her brothers and sister, they had a department store in Tracy City Furniture Company, and the dairy farm, which is on this road, Hartman's Farm Road. And at that time, it's like from the 30s all the way up to the 70s. And there was a guy telling me one time when I was a teenager, he said, man, you got it made, so you'll never have to work for a living, because your family's got all this stuff. Of course, what he didn't know is we did have lots of family members. By the time what you make, if you divide that by that number, it don't equal a whole lot to everybody. So lo and behold, I did have to work some as I got older. But as I look back, my parents' marriage, they were married for 66 years. And that's kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of unheard of in this day and age, seems like. And when my dad was in the Army, he wrote Mother a letter virtually every day. And Mother saved him. I got a box full of them. He just told how much he missed him. But every one of them signed as ever, Jim. Even before they were married, he found a letter or two from that. That's what he's always put on there, as ever, Jim. But it is amazing that he would do that almost every day. And family, I wrote the word family down. I can remember when you think about family, it seems like you think about this, it's like a family vacation that you go on. We used to go to Savannah Beach sometimes. When I was about 10 years old, he worked on the railroad, so you got a good discount on tickets. We actually took trains to Washington, D.C., and then on into New York City. I don't know how he did that, because I'd be afraid to do that. He took us up there and got off the Grand Central Station in New York City and got a cab. And it was a black gentleman from Chattanooga, if I remember right. And he took us to the hotel we stayed in. Sorry, we're out of seats. But you know, when we were kids too, I remember he bought us a Jeep. He bought him a Jeep. Actually, it was a 1947 Willys. Didn't even say Jeep on it. But I don't know, that's one of those things too. It affected our whole life. My brother and I and sister too. Our whole being evolved around that Jeep. We just, I guess, rode it every day and did different things. And he bought different pieces of property. You know, he didn't have a lot of money, but he didn't have a lot of wasteful habits either. That he was able to buy pieces of land here and there, and that's when he bought this back in the early 60s. And I remember coming down in that Jeep, pulling in that drive that you came in. Of course, it was all just weeds and all grown up. And the road out here was nothing but just an old logging road, just muddy and ruts. But my brother and I turned into the road there, and all the briars, there was sugar stacked about that high in the middle of the driveway. It was just a logging road. And this guy came tearing through the briars, he got all cut up. What are y'all doing down here? Of course, we didn't say that, you know, we own this. I think we said we're just turning around. So we turned around. But there's still, you can find some barrels and things where the creek used to be.
That's the reason it's called
But I think about the religious side of their life, the church side. They were always active in church. Dad helped build a Methodist church there in Tracy. And he always tells a story about from the old church, they took the bell out and had it on the ground, and they had to cut down this tree. He said people moved it 3 times and finally cut the tree and it hit the bell dead center. That was a good story. But he got involved up in Hobbs Hill Methodist Church, just a small church up there. And Ralph came along later up there too. But there's just 1 or 2 men in the whole church. But I've often thought that that church would have died out if he hadn't done that. They just had outhouses out the back and no classrooms. But he tore down an old church that Grady Ward there may have helped on, tearing it down. His memory gets bad, he can't remember for sure. But he took the lumber from that and helped get started anyway to build an addition to that church. They've added a little bit more to it since then. But I've often thought how many people have been saved through that church that he was able to keep going. Of course, he and my mother did help every position you could have, I guess, in a church like that. As well as being an example before us as kids. You know, I never had a problem with smoking because we had an uncle that would come and spend the night with us. And he would hack and cough in the bedroom. Of course, we didn't have any ashtrays. Mother would give him a saucer. But Mother would say, if you smoke, that's what's going to happen to you. Then we had a poor guy that'd come by our house. He would be drunk about once a month at least, I guess. He was just, sad. But he would sometimes knock on our door to ask my dad to pray for him. Of course, my mother said, if you drink, that's what will happen to you. I never had any problem with those 2 things. But it is a wonderful thing to have Christian parents and grandparents to grow up in that environment. I know at Parton Store, Grady Ward's dad, Grady, and Mother, and the rest of them, they wouldn't even sell candy cigarettes or root beer because they'd be afraid to be an example, of a kid drinking beer, even though it wasn't really beer. But that's just the kind of people that they were. And my dad and mother didn't really pamper us to the point where they told us what to do every day and don't do this, don't do that. And Dad didn't really do that much with us. He just provided things for us. But we always knew where he was. And and what condition he was in, which was a good condition. But he worked every day on the train. Then he'd go to the store in the afternoon and stay till it closed. And he worked at the store all day Saturday. So a lot of parents would do that back then. We think now about working 8 hours a day is a hard thing to do 5 days a week. But the people back then, they put in a lot of hours. And we sure appreciate what they did for us. What else? Anybody have any thoughts or anything about my parents? A lot of you don't really know them. Like I say, my mother died in 2007 and my dad just died a month ago.